What's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and also continuing my series of end of the year top list videos. Now that we've gotten the games that I thought were best from 2014 out of the way, which I'll be sure to leave a link to that if you're doing the description down below, it is now time for us to look towards the future on 2015 as I share with you the top 10 most anticipated games that I have for 2015, which for me really is going to be the definitive year that the current gen systems are really going to be kicked into full gear, and we finally say goodbye to the previous gen games, hopefully. So starting off real simple with number 10 is a game that I put it very low on the list because of the studio and also because it's very unlikely that it'll come out in 2015, but there's a slight possibility, and that is Uncharted 4. Now, for those of you guys that have been watching my channel long enough, you know how I feel about Naughty Dog. I was very disappointed with Uncharted 3, and in my opinion, The Last of Us is the most overrated game in the history of video games. So they got 2 strikes from me, and so I'm hoping that Uncharted 4 is going to be the last of the Uncharted series, and that it ends on a good note, because, you know, I got a 3-strike rule when it comes to studios, and if you get 3 strikes, well, let's just say I choose never to play any of your games ever again. And you know, from what I saw, what I've seen from Uncharted 4, it doesn't look very innovative, and the story doesn't look all that interesting, but I'm just hoping that they'll give us a good game. I'm not expecting a great game, I'm not expecting an awesome game, I'm just expecting a decent game, you know, one last time with Drake. Hopefully we can end this journey, and then we can move on to better things. So that's why I had to put Uncharted 4 as number 10 on this list. Going on into number 9 is a game that I'm not necessarily buying it because of the game itself, I'm buying it because of what it will give me. And that is Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. Now, I'm going to be honest, the only reason I'm even getting this game, or half the reason, is because it's going to come with the Final Fantasy 15 demo, and I've really wanted to get my hands on a gameplay experience of that game for a very, very long time. But the game itself for Type 0, it does look a lot different than any other Final Fantasy I've played up to date. And, you know, I like trying new things. I like kind of stepping out of my comfort zone when it comes to certain franchises. And, you know, a lot of their spin-off games haven't been very good. But, you know, this one might be different, you know. Who knows? You know, Square's hopefully coming back from the dead, maybe. But, you know, only time will tell. That's why I had to put it as number 9 on this list. Going on into number 8 is a game that I know that a lot of you guys are really looking forward to, especially if you have a PlayStation 4 like I do. That is Bloodborne. Bloodborne looks very interesting, especially with its gameplay style and from what I've seen from the 2 trailers that have been released for it. It certainly looks a lot different than any other game I've played before, and it reminds me a little bit of Dark Souls a little bit, with the whole kind of, you know, not exactly team-based, but kind of having what the gameplay style looks like. Still don't know what the story is, but, you know, I like the whole gritty darkness. Looks like he's killing a bunch of demons/monsters. It kind of gives me like a Van Helsing feeling, and I know a lot of people don't really like the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing. I personally did, and that's why this game kind of has this kind of a spot on this list. I'm just really curious, and it has piqued my interest, and that's certainly something I will be getting the collector's edition for, because I want to get the true Bloodborne experience, and that's why it's number 8 on this list. Going on to number 7 is a game that hopefully is going to bring this franchise back to form, as it did with its first installment of this franchise, and that is Resident Evil Revelations 2. Now, I did a whole video talking about what I want for the next Resident Evil game, and I'm happy to say that this game is going to do a lot of them. For one, we are playing as Claire Redfield, which we haven't had a chance to play with her since Code Veronica, or if you've played all the other Resident Evil games, we haven't played with her probably since Darkside Chronicles on the Wii. And I'm happy to say that a lot of the things I wanted for Resident Evil game are coming back. Revelations, to me, really did bring the franchise back to form. It showed that you can create a very gritty, scary experience with the current gameplay style. And this game seems to want to continue that. And it also gives us an AI partner in the form of Barry Burton's daughter. And the fact that Barry Burton himself is coming back after God knows how long. Man, it has been way too long for us to get a chance to play as Barry. And so it's just the fact that as someone like me, who kind of wants the franchise to go back into form, this looks like it's going to continue that tradition. And hopefully this type of gameplay experience happily, you know, melts or kind of flows into the mainstream games when we finally get an announcement of Resident Evil 7, because I think that for some old school fans, they have been a little bit disappointed with the direction that the mainstream Resident Evil games are going. I'm not so much in that department, but I can understand the criticism, and that's why I'm hoping that Resident Evil Revelations 2 continues that tradition, and hopefully it spills into Resident Evil 7, and then we will have back on track with the great set of games, and that's why it is number 7 on this list. Going on into number 6 is The Order 1886. Now, this is one of those games that, if you have a PlayStation 4, you're certainly going to get. I'm a little bit curious because from what I've seen from the trailers, I'm not exactly sure what this game is about. I'm not sure if we'll be fighting on humans, which we have seen gameplay of that, and I'm not sure if we're taking on monsters. It looks like it's going to be a mixture of both, but I absolutely like the atmosphere that we are taking place in. It looks like some time in like Victorian centered, like, back in 1886. Definitely a lot of steampunk. Definitely seeing a lot of that essence with the game style and the art direction and the overall level design that this game is going to be. And it looks like a standard cover-based shooter. And I don't mind cover-based shooters. I love cover-based shooters a lot more than first-person shooters. And so what I'm really hoping this game will do is create a world environment that has a lot of rich narrative and gives us some incentive to want to continue the story into a second Order 1886 game, which hopefully maybe they'll end up doing if this game is very successful, and that's why it is number 6 on this list. Going on into number 5 is a game that I will have to buy an Xbox for, maybe not, but especially when this first game comes out, and that is Rise of the Tomb Raider. Now, if you guys know me well enough, you know that I absolutely loved the reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise. And in my opinion, that game was a lot better than the 4 previous Uncharted games combined. And I really want to see where this lore story continues on with Rise of the Tomb Raider. And, maybe this will be a sign that Xbox can come up with some really good games. Because right now there's a big, console war going on, which, I think is a little silly. I mean, it's nice to think about that when you're young, but when you're a grown-up like me, it's time to stop thinking about gaming with its Xbox versus PlayStation, because we're all gamers, and we all just want to enjoy playing great games. I mean, that's really what it comes down to in the real world of gaming. And hopefully, Square is able to continue the story and continue the experience, and hopefully add something new that we've never quite experienced with the Lara Croft character. And in my opinion, I still think this is going to be a lot better than Uncharted 4, and so if people really want to go all console war and decide which game is going to be better between Rise of the Tomb Raider and Uncharted 4, then unfortunately I'm going to have to go with Microsoft and Xbox in its corner and go with Tomb Raider. And I'm willing to buy an Xbox for that. And maybe if it comes out for PlayStation 4, maybe I'll buy it a second time so I can get the trophies and add them on my PlayStation Network account. But that's a story for another time. That's why it's number 5 on this list. Going on into number 4 is my all-time favorite fighting franchise of all time, getting its 10th installment with Mortal Kombat 10. Now look, I absolutely loved Mortal Kombat 9, and I love what NetherRealm Studios was able to do for Injustice. So the fact that the 10th installment is also coming out for the current gen systems, I'm absolutely pumped up for it. I've seen tons of gameplay, I've seen tons of visual designs, I've seen lots of characters. I love where we are going. I like how it's continuing the story from Mortal Kombat 9, which in my opinion was absolutely fantastic and is by far the best story that we've had for a Mortal Kombat game, or fighting game in general. And I just really want to see what new innovations they're going to add, because they're keeping a lot of the things that they added in Mortal Kombat 9, and I just want to see how they were able to push that into this current installment, because Mortal Kombat 9 to me was the best Mortal Kombat game I played probably since I was a kid with Mortal Kombat 2. I just want to see this franchise continue. I want to see Mortal Kombat completely dominate Street Fighter, because Street Fighter is, in my opinion, not nearly as good as Mortal Kombat. That's just me. And I just really want to see what new characters we're going to get. Let's see this franchise grow. Let's add some new fighters to the all-big Mortal Kombat fighting family. And that's why it's number 4 on this list. Going on into number 3 is a game that I'm going to be very, very sad when I finally beat this game, because it's going to be the end of an era. And that is Batman Arkham Knight. Now, there is absolutely no question that if you are a comic book fan, and a video game fan too, that the Arkham games are by far the best comic book-based video games that have ever been made from Rocksteady Studios. And it's a little bit sad, yet a little bit rewarding to know that this is going to be the final installment in these great series of games. I absolutely love how we'll be able to drive as the Batmobile. This is going to add a whole new dimension of gameplay that we've not had a chance to experience. I was really hoping we would have had a chance to, like, fly the Batwing and maybe the 2 previous installments, but you know, maybe that's just a little bit too much to ask for. But I also like how there's a lot of mystique and a lot of mystery going into the storyline of this game, because they've decided to create a brand new villain for this particular game, exclusively for this game. And the fact that he looks like Batman, it's kind of got me on the fence of who is this mystery Arkham Knight. Who is this guy? And the fact that the new DLC content will allow us to play as Harley Quinn and Red Hood, thank you for giving us Red Hood, is something I'm really looking forward to. And hopefully when this game comes out, it not only blows the other Arkham games out of the water, it will be a very, very solid conclusion to an absolutely great series of games. And maybe it will inspire other franchises to try a lot harder and not want to rip off this game's gameplay format as other games have done. And that's why it's number 3 on this list. Going on into number 2 is a game that, you know, some of you guys might find surprising that it's number 2, not number 1. And that is Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Now you guys know that Metal Gear Solid is my all-time favorite franchise. And really, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, to me, I'm not expecting a lot from the story. Because, personally, I think this franchise needs to end. I don't want to see Hideo Kojima milk this franchise for everything it's worth, because I think that's a little bit dishonest to the fans, to this franchise, for something that is by far one of the longest running storylines of all time. And I just think that with Big Boss, there's really not a lot that you can go into, because we know how a story is going to end. But for me, Metal Gear Solid 5, it just seems like it's going to be a very technical game instead of story-driven. Because that's all I've seen in terms of the game itself that's really going to stand out. It's just the overall gameplay style and how it's going to be much more... It's going to give us the illusion of being a very open-world game. It's going to give us a lot of really fun mechanics to play with. And certainly it will have a factor of being able to go back and play it again and play it a different way to see how certain events will play out. So that's certainly a lot of things that I'm really looking forward to seeing that this Metal Gear Solid game will be able to incorporate into its overall gameplay format. And that's why I'm placing it as number 2 on this list. And going on into number 1, by far the most anticipated game that I am expecting for Final Fantasy 15 is that this is going to be the end of an 18-year journey for me. Because as I've been saying for years, this is going to be the absolute last Final Fantasy game that I will be playing, period. It started with 7 back in 97, and it's going to end with Final Fantasy 15 in 2015. And all I want is one last good Final Fantasy game. And from what I've seen, with the amount of time this game has been in development, there is no excuse for this game to live up to the hype. I do not want a Duke Nukem Forever experience, because if I do, then Square can go screw itself. Because as fans of Final Fantasy, as having to go through the shitstorm that was the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy disaster, and having to go through the travesty that was Final Fantasies 11 and 14 with its online bullshit, to give us a true Final Fantasy experience, and looks like the most innovative and open world and truly explorational Final Fantasy experience, which in my opinion it looks like Final Fantasy mixed with Kingdom Hearts, which is a good thing. I just want this game to be everything that it needed to be. Final Fantasy to me has a special place in my heart of being the very franchise that made the type of gamer that I am today. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for Final Fantasy. So, Square, if you happen to see this video, please live up to the hype. Make Final Fantasy 15 the game that brings this franchise back to glory. I don't want to see this franchise die, and I don't want it to be a laughing joke as it has become in previous years. And that is why Final Fantasy 15 is my most anticipated game of 2015. And with that out of the way, I'd really like to know what are some of your guys' most anticipated games for 2015. Please share your list with me in the comments down below. And if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to track me in my future movie, video game reviews, and top list videos. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.